Hi, it's Michelle Lightworker here, and welcome to our 8th installment of Enlightenment Activation documentary series. This episode, we focus on the shadow of responsibility, which is blame. I spoke to 6 individuals who shared with me their individual experiences moving from a process of blame into responsibility and how that has activated their enlightenment and empowered their lives.
Hi, my name's EJ Love and I'm from the Gold Coast. I'm 33 years old and I am a love, relationship and sex coach and sexual healer tantra practitioner. When people come to me and they're in this pain, they're in this suffering and they're in a lot of story, and the story is keeping them in a victimized perspective and they're not seeing how they are creating that story and creating these patterns of these things happening to them. The only way that's ever going to shift and you're going to be free of that pain, free of that suffering, is where you look at how you keep creating that, how you keep attracting that. And then that's when you become empowered, and then it doesn't keep happening. When I talk about self-responsibility, that's not taking responsibility for the other person's actions or reactions, but it's taking responsibility for our own behavior, such as enabling other person's behavior. When we start to look at that and we start to look at how we are interpreting what's happening as well and creating that story, then we get to step out of it and we get to start to look at, well, hang on, what are these stories that I'm running that keep creating this? And where am I actually disempowered and keeping myself in this victimization? So when we talk about things like abuse, so often we think about that it's about men doing to women. And the thing is, though, that it does go both ways. And so we have to look at it as, it's really a human thing, and we all get triggered, we all get reactive, and we all act out. If we don't feel safe, particularly as women, if we don't feel safe with men, then how this affects us intimately and sexually is that we're not actually in our bodies. And so when we're not in our bodies, we can't fully be present, we can't surrender, and we're all up in here, we're overthinking, and we're just not able to trust and connect properly. And so this really affects our intimacy and how we are able to fully be present, okay? And then, when it comes to experiencing orgasmic pleasure, like the most amazing orgasms can only happen when we surrender. The only way that we can surrender is when we feel safe. A lot of women is that they go into performance and pleasing men instead of being in receptivity and embodiment. So how this affects men is that men feel this. They feel, whether we're there and we're 100%, and what men absolutely love the most is when a woman is absolutely in receptivity, can fully receive him. If she's in her head and doesn't feel safe, there's no way that she's going to fully receive him. Okay. And so men will feel energetically, they can tell when a woman is fully there, just fully receiving and surrendering and just, having these amazing orgasmic experiences. And he absolutely thrives on that. All of us have masculine and feminine. It's not that men are masculine and women are feminine. It's that we both have these energies. And so it's like exploring these. So sometimes, particularly in same-sex, also explore these different energies and explore where one is like fully receiving and the other is fully giving. You can explore these different energies. And I've had an experience with a man where he was tapped into his energetic vagina and I was tapped into my energetic cock. We actually had an energetic sex without any sort of physical penetration. So, and it's particularly in same-sex couples, you can explore these different energies and you can, penetrate in so many different ways, whether that be energetically or physically, which is super fun to play with, by the way. When we go into our connections, we go into our relationships, we can come from an observing and notice when we're going, when we're leaning forward a bit. Are we playing out these old patterns? Are we kind of functioning from our own wounds? And we can step back and look at that and maybe do things a little bit differently. At the end of the day, what I say to everyone is that when I have someone come in and maybe it's a pattern or a trigger and I consciously look at it, at the end of the day, it's all about me and it's all about my self-love. And then I have an opportunity to look at that and love myself more And so, you know, and become more enlightened.
Hi, this is Raelene Byrne from Medicine for Your Spirit. I live on the Sunshine Coast in Australia. I am 59 years old in human years, evolutionary through my soul level, timeless. And at this stage in my life, I'm doing soul mentoring as well as public speaking and writing. I was invited to speak at a really big gathering. It was a national conference and there was just under 1,000 people there. And I've spoken with these groups before, but this one, something in me clicked, something shifted. I've spent a lot of time in the last few years really working towards this sovereignty of soul, this real ownership and responsibility of self in the world. After these people had had 2 days of tax laws, government bylaws, property development, all that stuff, I get to go on and talk about soul stuff, you know, that's my stuff. So 10 minutes before I went on stage, I was zenning myself and I had this little vision. And in the vision, the words I heard from a very dear friend of mine was, "Now tell me who you are." And something in that moment just clicked and then something in me opened. And I went up on stage and I delivered my presentation. It was 2 hours and I got a standing ovation because I stood on that stage and in that very first moment, it was like, you're going to see who I am, you're going to get everything I've got, and I'm not holding back. Your vibration expands, and that's the thing. I think the best way I can describe the feeling was this, not just heart expansion, it was an energetic body expansion. We start to live life more and more responsibly. We show up really who we are. We show the world because we get past the whole thing around, what if people don't like me? What if people don't like what I say? What if they disagree with me? There comes a point where, with full self-responsibility, you step into this sovereignty of self. And there's this real solid energy within you that no matter how chaotic things are around you, you know you're going to be okay. You know it within. And people feel reassured by that because you're steady. We spend a lot of our time when we're young and in our early, 20s and stuff, living life from that blame, victim, look what they're doing to me, look how bad life is, look what society's doing, because of all the conditionings, the beliefs, the patterns, our family stuff, and bless our families and society that we grow up in. But we've chosen to come in at a time to look at that and see that that is a combination of other people's lack of ownership and lack of responsibility. So we can buy into it and become part of the system or the structure and never get on with who we are, thereby living a life where we're not responsible for ourselves and what we're contributing, but we are part of a game or a play where we're playing a role without any real soul connection. And then something happens one day where the question, the universal question, it's like the universe waits for us to say this, is when we go, there's got to be more to life than how I'm living. And who the hell am I? Self-responsibility to me, it's an incredible act of love because it means you're taking ownership for all that you are, all aspects, your mental body, your emotional body, your spirit, your soul, your physicality. I really believe completely with all parts of my being that nothing and nobody can do anything to us unless we give them permission. So when you actually get to a level of taking full responsibility for everything that you are, that's when life changes. That's when you are actually, as I like to say, you are sovereign at soul level, and the life you create is completely of your essence and it's your frequency. We've been hearing a lot of that in the last, or maybe this year especially, around just be who you are, just be who you are. Well, you know what just be who you are is? Take responsibility for yourself. That's it. That's all be who you are is really the catch cry. Just take responsibility.
Hello, my name's Aleckson and I am 52 years of age. In this time-space reality, I am currently residing in Australia and I am a transformational speaker and writer. I'm also the direct voice channel for a highly evolved non-physical stream of consciousness group that we call All That Is. I've spent my life in this dance between responsibility and no responsibility for my own life. It's really important, I understand now, that we be totally self-responsible. But I've spent a lot of time in the opposite of that, being someone who's waiting for something to help me, waiting for something to fix me, waiting for someone else to save me. I think growing up as a girl, I experienced all those fairy tales about Prince Charming coming along and, you know, fixing your whole life up, giving you a kiss on the lips and waking you up and, you know, taking you off to this happily ever after place. A number of times almost drove myself to homelessness because I was waiting for someone else to financially save me. Having so many experiences of myself being irresponsible with my life and not taking full responsibility and therefore not taking action in my life, all of these things led me to a place where life was just not working for me. Didn't realise that I was responsible for that by being so irresponsible in areas of my life. And it was amazing to realise this, to come to the realisation that, hang on a minute, there's only one person responsible for my life. There's only one person that can fix it. There's only one person that can get me out of this hole that I've dug myself into. So I had to start turning myself around, recognising that you have to be self-responsible. You absolutely have to be the one who falls in love with yourself, does good things for yourself, takes the steps to rescue yourself, so to speak. Nobody else can do it for you. And then as I started to step into those realizations and actually started to take physical action, because I was very irresponsible with physical action, I was all high and mighty getting messages from my guides and having wonderful, wonderful ideas and things like that, but not bringing them into reality. So as I started to realize that I needed to be responsible for the action I was taking as a physical being, I started to recognize that when you are responsible with your life, when you are looking after yourself, taking care of the things you need to take care of as a human being, as a grounded human being, that you start to notice that life happens for you. I would be able to look at life and everything that was happening in my life and recognize that, okay, so this thing's happened. It might look like a bad thing for some people, but there's got to be some reason that it's happening, and it's got to be for me to grow. I actually work with a thing that I call the 7 stages of sovereignty. Sovereignty meaning a place where you come into wholeness in your life, where the physical and the non-physical aspects of you all come together in this reality to truly fulfill your mission and purpose here as a spiritual sovereign being. And one of those 7 stages is self-responsibility. So when you step into those stages and become totally responsible for your own self, totally responsible for everything that's happening around you, totally responsible for the life that you are living, you truly do step into a place of seeing yourself and knowing yourself as the creator of your reality.
My name is Rameka, I'm 38, I live in the Gold Coast, and I'm a spiritual teacher, guide, intuitive healer and empath, seer, run meditations, inspirational speaking, guidance. When dealing with a client or with a group, whether we're doing the healing, whether we're doing a reading, a cleansing, whatever it may be, right? We who work in this field have a great responsibility to set the space, to clear the space, to make it a sacred space, and to hold the space. We have a great responsibility in this field to ourselves as the messenger, to our clients especially, because they're the ones coming to us. So they need to know that they're safe, that they're understanding that there's no judgment and everything else that comes with it. And also, we have a great responsibility to spirit, to God, to universe, to be the best vessel, the clearest vessel that we can be for them to do their work through us. Being that we work in this field, we also have a great responsibility to look at things from a higher level of awareness. Okay, so for example, when terrorist activities take place across the world, when there's violence breaking out across the world, when natural disasters take place, when people go missing, when, women or children are abused, whatever it may be, we have the responsibility as guides, as leaders in a sense, as messengers, as vessels, to look at these things from a higher level of awareness so that we can spread love instead of fear, peace instead of hate. Many people see events take place and they get drowned in the fear of it, or, oh no, a bomb went off here, killed so many people, I hate that person that did it, blah, 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 right? That's not coming from a space of love, and it's not coming from a space of awareness, okay? So it's up to us to step out of that situation, step out of those moments, and look at it from a higher level of awareness and spread the love and understanding. What you can take care of right now is who you are, your space, and how you action your journey ahead. If you do so from a space of love, everything will be taken care of. But we can't change everything that's going on around the world in terms of that event just took place. What we can do is change ourselves and who we are in this moment and how we think and feel about these things that take place, thus energetically spreading that ripple out. The positive energies that we get, that we put out there, are rippling out to those that need. Become the eagle. Okay, everybody knows what an eagle is. So eagle is one of the only birds that will fly above the storm. Okay, so you look at the storm as being, all these events which take place in life. Whether you argue with your partner, whether you're having trouble at home with your finances, with your job, whatever it may be, become the eagle. So you rise out of the situation and you look down upon it from a higher level of awareness. And when you look at it from a higher level of awareness, you gain more clarity into, okay, this is what is really going on. This person is like this because of that. I'm being like this because of that. What's the higher level of awareness saying? And the higher level of awareness, that doesn't really matter, right? And then we can look to, okay, how do we approach that situation? What angle can we approach that situation from? This is the responsibility that we need. Absolutely everything has energy. And when we can look at it from a high level of awareness and spread that understanding to those that do not work in this field, we can help the message of love instead of the message of fear.
My name is Paulina Howfield. I was born in the UK, and part of what I came to do in this journey, in this life, is to be a light worker who specializes as an esoteric map maker. Like most of us, we have some kind of epiphany, some kind of awakening, and that's as it's meant to be, because our soul is awakening us for the mission that we have in this life. There's a reason we came to this gorgeous planet. For me, I had an awakening via a series of near-death experiences that happened within a 24-hour period. Turns out there was a cyst on the ovary and it ruptured. And I died. In the process of dying, I left my body. I went up into the galaxies, into the constellations, and then I was in the light and in corridors of light. And in that time, which was timeless, which was the sea of consciousness at its best, was aware of having this thought. If somebody wanted an answer to anything in the universe, somehow I had access to it. I realized the things that I was carrying weren't me, that I'm not my body. None of us are our bodies. That I'm not my thoughts. None of us are our thoughts. That I am not my emotions. None of us are our emotions. And that we are all simply consciousness experiencing itself. I became the elements. I really did. There was absolutely no body. It was just consciousness experiencing these elements. And then at some point, I felt somebody pulling me back to earth. As we move towards being our full light embodiment, our multi-dimensional selves, one of the things that benefits each of us, and of course also our lovely planet, is to develop a relationship with her, to become responsible for our relationship with her. Many people think that looking after the planet or being connected to the planet is about the environment, or is about recycling, and is about taking care of her in that way of sitting and meditating with her. Now, these are good things to do, but our relationship with our planet is far deeper than that. Our relationship with our planet is ancient wisdom. Every single one of us that's alive on this planet is part of her body, and we are all reciprocally related to her. And it was meant to be. We were designed that way. So if we can understand that we are connected to her automatically, it's in our DNA, it's in our blueprint, and it's in her blueprint, then we already know that there's not a great deal we have to do except start the process of remembering. And we've all forgotten. We have forgotten that there is this symbiotic, reciprocal relationship. In this symbiotic relationship with our planet, it's about what we give back and what we receive back. So if you're aware that the earth is a living, breathing being, and she has subtle bodies and energy centers like we do, you're going to want to treat her in the same way you would treat yourself. You want to look after her. You want to make sure she's got the things she needs. So many people, when they live on land, they forget that the land is a living, breathing entity. But she will reflect back how you are. Her trees, her waterways, her oceans, everything is part of that symbiotic relationship. If we have thoughts that are not self-sustaining and are not responsible, then we are imprinting that into the earth, and it is reflected back in our own lives.
Hey, I'm Sheehan. I live on the Sunshine Coast. I'm 50 years old, love being 50, and I have a gift of medical intuition where I see inside the body and see the anatomy and physiology. So I grew up in Kuwait, and in that Middle Eastern culture, women were not to have girls. So I was not wanted as a girl baby for a start. I had a specific gift of being able to see inside the body within people to know exactly what was happening disease-wise. So that was even quite torturous. I was told for all of my life as a child and a teenager that I was not lovable, that I'd never be ever loved, no one would want me or marry me, or I was hopeless, I was dumb, I was stupid, all those sort of concepts. So I call it a very colourful life. I don't want it to be a sad story. And so I learned to hide that gift or hide my brilliance as such. Along the way, the things that I would witness were very, very what we call domestic violence now. It was very often that I would wake up and my mum was standing naked with torn clothes on the floor and blood and a knife. So I learnt what love was not. And in that process, I learned to hide. At the age of 16, my mum died on Christmas Day. That was actually a blessing for her because she could run away from the domestic violence at home. For me, I became homeless because it was safer than being at home. I learnt to hide
and I learnt pride. In that last year of school that I had to go to school, I didn't tell anyone I was homeless, and I managed to create things out of potentiality. I would go and shower in swimming pool complexes so people didn't know. I'd sleep in public toilets because I knew they were safe. But I knew I had to do something with this medical intuitive gift, so I decided to go into nursing. That way I could understand why couldn't a medical staff see what I could see as a child as I watched my mum die. And I wanted to be a nurse because then like, you're hands-on and you get to see the patient, see the emotions of things. I took it further into pathology, where you look at blood samples and urine samples and feces and things like that, and I could see the person's personality inside. Then I took it further and I went to autopsies because I needed to see whether I could see. So all the things that I was seeing intuitively, were they actual? And totally were. Age 26, I was suicidal. I couldn't handle not sharing this gift of medical intuition, and I hadn't even told my husband that I'd met when I was 16. But as I was about to put the pills in my mouth, I saw a picture of my first son. And I thought, I can't do this. I can't leave my son like my mum did. So I thought, that's it. I'm going to come out of the closet and I'm going to share the gift with my nursing girlfriends, which I did. And from there, the doors just opened. So the key thing for me is responsibility. It wasn't about blaming my dad or my mum for the situation. It was understanding, respond and able. That I could respond in a different way and see it in a different way. And I'm able to design my destiny in a different way. And I found my clients, once they understand that blaming just keeps the story recycling and recycling and recycling and create disease, that if they respond to it in a different perspective and they know that they're able, they can do anything, then it takes away those burdens and that pain. So the key is responsibility, respond and able. Change the story. I called it colourful rather than torturous and domestic violence. Now I'm teaching globally, got accredited courses, an internationally recognised training institution, won awards, etc. But I needed those colourful backgrounds to make me who I am. The key is to understand you're here to shine your brilliance. And when you know that you can be, do, have anything and swap life around, watch the miracles occur. You're meant to shine your brilliance.
So, what do you think? I believe the journey of consciousness is one where we create our story, we deny our story, we own our story, we transform our story, and then we choose our story. We create our story from the very beginning. We're unconscious perhaps of what we're creating, but we're still creating it. Then we move into denying our story, really living in it, maybe feeling like the victim at those periods of times, or really unconscious of the creation of our story. And then we move into a place where we're motivated by pain or illness or sickness or disappointment or loss, where we own our story and we start to realize what our story actually is. The truth of our story, all the different components. And then we get to a point when we stop looking at our story and awakening to it, and we step into being able to rewrite it. And then we transform our story. We choose to see every component as an activator for our enlightenment, as an activator for our empowerment, as serving us. And then from a position of ownership, empowerment, and enlightenment, we realize we're choosing our story every single second of the day. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. It's very powerful. And I look forward to watching how you choose to write your story.